I want you guys to know that isolation is actually spiritual medicine for the anointed. And I want you to sit with me for a moment, not as a content creator, not as a teacher speaking from a distance, but as someone who understands the weight you've been carrying. You who love deeply, who sense before you speak, who carry vision before you have proof, and who walk into a room and know too much without anyone saying a word, the one heaven has its eyes on. Let me take you deep into the mystery of isolation. Not the loneliness the world talks about, but the sacred separation God uses to heal, restore, awaken, and strengthen his chosen. What you've been calling falling back is actually God pulling you into the chamber where transformation begins. There comes a moment in the life of the anointed where everything familiar begins to fade. The conversations drain you, crowds drain you, people you once tolerated suddenly feel very heavy. Rooms that you once blended into now feel foreign to you. Everything around you starts feeling out of sync. That's the divine pull. You're not losing interest. You're being removed. Removed from old circles, removed from the wrong connections, removed from energy that can't travel with you, removed from voices that would delay your next season, removed from attachments that would block your rising. It's called the extraction. Heaven is pulling you away from places you would have never walked out of on your own. Your spirit always knows before your mind catches up. When your spirit starts saying, I can't be here anymore. That tightening in your chest when certain people walk in. That heaviness after certain conversations. The agitation that arises without a trigger. That overwhelming urge to get quiet. That sense of, I have to go. That's not moodiness. That's spiritual intelligence. Your spirit is telling you, this place can't feed you anymore. What once made sense no longer supports who you are now becoming. And when God begins to elevate you internally, the external world becomes too small to hold you. This is why your spirit loses interest before your life changes. You outgrow things spiritually before you outgrow them physically. So isolation begins. Leave quietly. Step back gently. It's all a whisper. When God pulls you into isolation, you enter the quiet laboratory, the sacred place where he works on what no one else can see. You might think you're resting, but deep inside, everything is being rearranged. He begins working on your old heartbreak you never addressed, hidden wounds you learned to function with, spiritual fatigue you masked for years, the parts of you that kept giving without receiving, the self-doubt you inherited, the guilt you carried that never belonged to you, and the emotional bruises left by people you protected. Now, this inner work cannot happen in crowds, so healing demands stillness, and your growth now demands seclusion, and your evolution demands silence. So God brings you into the laboratory of isolation, and he begins restoring the version of you the world couldn't damage. At some point, isolation stops being peaceful. You start feeling uncomfortable. You start feeling exposed. Memories resurface, patterns confront you, truth rises to the surface. This is where God dismantles the self you built from survival. The version of you that softened yourself to make others comfortable, pretended not to notice mistreatment, carried burdens you didn't deserve, stayed loyal to harmful people. You even minimized your own needs. You over-explained your heart and ignored your intuition just to avoid conflict. That version cannot go where you're going. And isolation becomes the place where those layers fall away, one by one. It feels like breaking, but it's actually rebuilding. And now the alchemy begins. When everything around you quiets down, your spiritual senses wakes up, and you may begin to notice that your intuition becoming razor sharp, Your dreams carrying messages, heightened awareness of people's intentions, and quicker internal warnings and insight that come out of nowhere. Heightened emotional intelligence and spontaneous spiritual downloads. This is not imagination. This is the unveiling. See, your senses aren't turning on. They were always active. You were just surrounded by people, environments, and conversations that kept you distracted. See, isolation removes the interference. And suddenly you see, you hear, you feel, and then you know. And this is the moment where many anointed individuals discover why God removed them from the crowd. Their gift needed stillness to breathe. And in isolation, it creates the distance, and the distance exposes motive. Once you step away from certain people, God begins showing you the truth you couldn't see while you were close. And you start realizing who drained you, who depended on your strength but offered none, who loved your presence but not your soul, who benefited from your heart but never held it gently, who was competitive with you in secret, who played innocent while causing damage, who kept you around because you inspired them, not because they valued you, who studied you to imitate you, not to learn, who even pretended to support you but prayed you stay small and never elevate, never see success, because isolation reveals what proximity hid. You don't go searching for the truth comes searching for you. And once God shows you the face behind the mask, you never forget. And after the unmasking comes the instruction. Now, this is the stage where heaven begins to speak with direction. So you may sense a shift in your calling, a new purpose to do something, right? An inner push towards something unfamiliar. For myself, going back to school and starting a YouTube channel. A knowing that your life is about to change. A tug toward a new environment that scares you. A sudden release from an old identity that kept you small. And a new assignment awakening in your spirit. Isolation is where God gives you next steps. The steps you could not hear surrounded by opinions, distraction, or emotional static. Every great movement in your destiny will always be preceded by separation. Instruction arrives when distraction dies. And now comes the metamorphosis. You begin noticing your voice has more depth, your energy changes, your presence feels different, your conversations shift, your tolerance for nonsense disappears, your boundaries harden, your standards rise, your discernment sharpens, your confidence feels spiritual, not emotional, and you no longer shrink to fit because you no longer apologize for existing, and you definitely no longer negotiate your peace. Isolation turns you into the version of yourself heaven intended, not the version shaped by trauma, not the version shaped by survival, not the version shaped by expectations, and definitely not the version shaped by people who couldn't see your value. You become the version shaped by your purpose. This transformation is internal first and is visible later. People notice it before you, so they may say, you carry something different now. You speak with a lot of weight, and that's what isolation births. When God finally releases you from your season of isolation, you don't come out the same. You come out carrying new spiritual authority, deeper self-respect, divine protection, restored peace, wisdom beyond your years, a stronger sense of who you are, heightened perception, healed inner wounds, a strengthened calling, and even a new direction because you are developed into an unshakable spirit. And people who underestimate you begin watching you. People who misused you lose access. People who betrayed you lose their position in your life. And people who doubted you get silenced by your eyes. Your steps become guided. Your path becomes guarded. Your gift becomes amplified and your spirit becomes steady. You don't just return, you rise. And the ones who once dismissed you, Watch from a distance as God elevates you publicly after he restored you privately. If you are in isolation right now, if you feel yourself withdrawing, if you've been craving silence, if you've been losing interest in everything familiar, hear me, please. You are not falling apart. You are being prepared. God didn't take people from you. He took you from people, not to punish you, but to protect you, not to break you down, but to rebuild you, not to silence you, but to strengthen your voice. Isolation is not empty. It is full of divine movement, full of healing, renewal, and spiritual upgrades. You are in the chamber, the cocoon, the sacred room where destiny is shaped. And when you emerge, you will not recognize yourself, and neither will the world. Thank you for visiting my channel. Stay covered, stay conscious, stay undefeated. I'll see you on the next one. Bye-bye.